Is AI going to control humanity? Or is it basically just a tool doing what we want it to do? If you haven't given much thought to AI or technology in general, and you find yourself living in a Western liberal democracy, chances are you're drawn to one of these sides more than to the other. Or you may feel torn between them. Either way, you're likely to be caught in an alternative between seemingly incompatible perspectives. In technical philosophical terms, the alternative is between subject or object being in control of our existence. Either AI is going to radically and inevitably disrupt human existence as we know it, for good or for ill, or it is a mere instrument. As such, it is presumed to be ethically and politically neutral. Like all instruments, AI would then be put to either positive or negative effect by those controlling it. You may have come across the saying, or perhaps used it yourself, that guns don't kill people, it's people who kill people. Either the technological object is in control, or the human subject. Either we align AI to our values, or we are soon going to be extinct. It's that simple. But is it really? Let us give a closer look at the matter. Since its inception in the early decades of the 20th century, the branch of philosophy focused on scrutinizing and assessing technology has often challenged the validity of this straightforward dichotomy between human subject and technological object. It has mostly aimed to reject both dystopianism and utopianism, i.e. both generalized techno-worries of ultimate doom and techno-fantasies of an inevitably brighter future. But it has not rejected technological determinism in either its darker or brighter versions on the grounds of an alleged neutrality of technology. Technology is not a collection of mere instruments out there, waiting to be used by fully autonomous subjects. Consider an example provided by Dutch scholar Philip Bray. The introduction of washing machines in homes across Ibiza, Spain, enabled residents to conveniently handle their laundry. With a preference emerging for this method over utilizing public fountains and wash basins, these communal facilities fell into disuse and were eventually abandoned. Consequently, the bonds within the local community weakened. This societal development is not causally necessitated by the new technology, but neither is it freely chosen by Ibizans. Technology is not neutral. Instead, philosophers and historians of technology have often stressed how technological devices play a profound role in how we perceive and interpret the world, as well as our place in it. As a way of seeing things, technology can radically transform our being in the world, including one's sense of one's body. The very meaning of what it is to be human is shaped and transformed in relation to the actual and possible technologies we use and imagine. In the absence of such a connection, there is no distinct identity for either human subjects or technological objects like tools and machines. If carpenters didn't exist, hammers wouldn't either, and vice versa. In other words, tools and instruments show up under descriptions that are dependent on us and our work practices. In the scholarly literature, the mutual dependence of technological object and human subject is called the co-production of technology and society. The non-neutral relational approach to technology here outlined in very broad strokes is highly critical of a pervasive stance in modern Western thought and culture. It fundamentally rejects the dichotomy between subject and object, often aligned with philosopher René Descartes, and typical of a predominant modern mindset. At this point, those of you with some background in philosophy will be reminded of the influence of a famous yet highly controversial thinker who pushed the criticism of the alleged neutrality of technology further than most. We are talking about Martin Heidegger, whose essay Die Frage nach der Technik, translated as The Question Concerning Technology, has become a classic text for many contemporary philosophers and scholars of technology. In this text, Heidegger asserts that the essence of technology is nothing technological. Technology is not a collection of technical devices designed for some particular task, nor is it what a technical device has in common with all others. Instead, modern technology has become an all-encompassing frame of mind, life form or mode of revelation or disclosure. As such, its danger lies not in the destructive consequences of a specific invention like the atomic bomb. No philosophy is needed to make us aware of the life-threatening consequences of such a piece of technology. The danger rather lies in the tendency inherent in modern technology to become the only way things are allowed to make sense to us. Technology then turns into a mode of revelation exclusive of all other such modes, such as politics, art, and spirituality. The name Heidegger gives to technology as an absolute mode of disclosure is Gestell, usually translated as inframing. In the era of Gestell, every object turns into an opportunity for unconstrained manipulation for the sake of endless optimization. The very meaning of the term object implies the imposition of human will on an allegedly passive physical matter purely at our disposal. Heidegger's notion of inframing calls our attention to a distinctive dynamics within so-called Western thought and culture. The predominant focus on instrumental problem-solving or calculative rationality seems to have steered us in a direction where human existence itself is increasingly considered a problem to be solved, or at least managed. Our civilization's relentless pursuit of dominion over the natural world has resulted in a mass society where our very lives and bodies are increasingly subjected to measures of management and technological control. In the terminology made famous by sociologist Max Weber, Heidegger's history is a history of ever-increasing rationalization and disenchantment. This history does not lead to the triumphant victory of the rational subject over the mindless object. To the contrary. The subject itself is finally turned into raw material on standby to be efficiently disposed of in an endless and unending process of self-overcoming. Humans become mere human resource, devoid of inherent meaning and thus endlessly optimizable for further use. Again, the issue does not lie, say, with your contact lenses or artificial knee. In fact, these devices may contribute to a much improved quality of life. The issue is that in search of freedom and emancipation from natural constraints, we have become subjected to calculative reason. In short, we serve technology as much as it serves us. To ask who or what is in control is to ask the wrong question. That is why, for Heidegger, the two perspectives introduced at the beginning of this episode do not present a genuine alternative. They are rather sisters under the skin. Viewed from this perspective, both objectivist and subjectivist accounts of technology share in a common predicament, of which they remain unaware. Again, to prevent misunderstanding, worries about losing your job to AI may be real enough, and so is your experience of being in control when having come to master a new technique. The issue arises on a different level, not on an ontic but on an ontological plane, to employ Heidegger's own terminology. Ontological, i.e. philosophical, investigations aim to uncover the underlying meanings and structures that shape human existence and our understanding of reality on a day-to-day basis. Heidegger's deeply critical view of modern technology has its roots in the analysis of tools presented in the early work Sein und Zeit, 1927. In paragraph 15, Heidegger famously observes that entities like hammers are integrated into the ways humans engage in work practices. When in use, the hammer recedes as a separate object out there. It becomes absorbed into the action being executed within some socio-cultural practice, like shoemaking or interior decoration. In Heidegger's analysis, this withdrawal of entities in day-to-day use is no mere peculiarity of the human subject as studied by cognitive psychology. It rather indicates how the world itself is disclosed to us as physically and culturally embodied beings. In the age of modern technology, things change. In the wake of an epistemic turn towards the subject, the hammer, along with everything else, is deemed to exist as object out there. The mind represents the world to itself as composed of discrete independent objects. But, says Heidegger, the world can only appear to us that way in virtue of an institutionalized act of abstraction by the theorizing subject forgetful of its own doing. In Heidegger's terminology, when a hammer is actively used within a practical context, it is first ready to hand, zu handen. It shifts to being present at hand, or vorhanden, when viewed as simply the objective counterpart to the mind's representation. In general, any entity X turns into an object present at hand, when it is no longer in use and loses its moorings in human practice. Concomitantly, X is then also seen as a mere passive receptacle of unbounded human will. From this perspective, modern thought, often identified with common-sense realism, has things exactly backwards when it starts with objects out there presumed to exist independently of the subject. To imagine the world as composed of separate, independently existing objects and their causal interconnections is to assume a so-called God's eye point of view that no embodied being can occupy. You cannot inhabit a world that is composed of mere objects. What you can is to live under the delusion that subject and object are independent of each other, each vying for control over the other. Modern technology hands us over to exactly this predicament. As long as it is not acknowledged as such, we are bound to endlessly repeat the same type of question with regard to AI, as with all other modern technologies. We remain bound to asking, is AI going to control humanity? Or is it basically just a tool doing what we want it to do?